This first video will walk us through some very foundational components of processing. The first thing we're going to look at is naming conventions. As you can see here in this folder, we have 9 subfolders. Each one has a processing sketch, which is named with a suffix .pde, which indicates it's a processing sketch. That's the file type. So if we look, we can see the name of the folder and the name of the processing sketch are exactly the same. When you save the processing sketch, it automatically creates a folder and saves the processing sketch into it. It has no spaces in the name. You cannot use spaces, so it's using underscores to separate words so that you have a continuous string of text. And in addition to the sketch, it also saves the sketch properties file. You don't have to worry about any of these things. All you have to know is that when you save a file, make sure there are no spaces and put it into a folder. So let's open this first sketch up and take a look at it. Okay, so inside of processing, we have, this is the processing IDE. This is where you're going to write your code. It's a very simple text editor. We've got the text editing window. You've got line numbers indicated here. You've got the name of the file indicated here. You've got a run button, a stop button. You've got a debug button, which we'll talk about later. You can also have different modes that you write processing. Right now we've just got Java loaded here. And down here is the console window. This is where output can be generated as well as error messages if you're having problems. So if we look at the code itself, we can see there's just 2 lines. It's very simple. The first line is gray, and you can see there's 2 forward slashes in front of it. The forward slashes indicate that this line of text is commented out, meaning when you run the program, it won't read that line as part of the code. It will ignore that line. This is very useful for both naming. It's tradition to name your file at the top, but also add comments to your code where you write the first line will print hello world to the console. And again, this is as short a piece of programming as you can get, so writing a comment like this for something like that is unnecessary, but it's instructive to show you this here because it is a common practice when you start writing more complex code that you're going to want to insert comments throughout the code so you can easily understand what each block of code is doing. So it's a good habit to get into right up front. And you'll see I do this extensively in the samples that I create. So here we've got the next line of code, and we've got a function, which is print line. Then we've got some parentheses, which hold the parameters of the function, and then the output, which is hello world, which means it's going to print this string, which is this series of characters, to the console. So if I run the code, I get a canvas which pops up, and we're getting a canvas by default even though we didn't ask for one because processing was written as a visual language, and so it expects visual output. So you get a canvas even though it's not doing anything. It's just a default size of probably 50 pixels by 50 pixels. The background is a middle gray, and the real action happened down here inside of the console where it wrote hello world. So if I stop this, I'm going to copy this text. I'm just going to paste it again. And I'm going to play the line again, and you can see now it ran both hello world and hello down in the console. And it only prints it once because it runs from the top to the bottom, and because nothing is telling it to loop, it does not loop, so it only prints it once. So at this point, that's running your first piece of code. The only other piece worth noting is commenting out. There's two ways to do it. You can do hashes every line, or you can replace that by doing /**, and then here ***, and that basically comments out everything between when you do the opening comment and the closing comment. So everything in between those two is commented out. So you can see if I take this and move it down to the bottom, now everything's commented out. So if I hit play or run, nothing happens because there's nothing there. It's just it's all commented out. So there's no active script. Whereas if I take this, whoops, and put it back up here, and run the program again, we're back in action. Okay, so that's sort of the summary of the first run through of this. As you can see, we've got naming conventions. The sketches are stored in folders. The name of the sketch and the folder have to have the same name. Commenting out words, and then just a basic first introduction to sort of how the code is organized, where you have a function, you have parameters, you have a semicolon which ends the line of the first code, and then next line. Okay.